I have my hype team here. I love that. So from what Dario was telling us, this is the fourth next. This is my third time on stage. Well, here, this is my sixth time on stage. So those who've been here, you should know that something is about to go wrong. Those who don't know me, you will realize very quickly. But I think this is a kudos to Dario's adventurous spirit to reinvite me time and time again. And as we are going to talk about failure, and I think we had a very nice lead up to that in the previous sessions, I think this is a good way to go there. So where did it start? So for those who recall the last couple nexus, so I was here on that stage talking about some of our projects that were failing. Actually, one comment from one of the people in the audience was like, hey, we should do that more often. We should talk more about our failure instead of our best practices, etc. That's where we learn. And I was like, that's actually a good point. I cannot tell about best practices because I don't have best practices, but I know how to fail quite a lot. So that's okay. Then, so in Vienna, my dear colleague Arantxa came to actually, walk the talk and give example about one of our projects. I don't know if you see that we have a corporate style of presenting. So found the image pretty cool, but she gave very clear examples about it. But then for this time, I thought, okay, let's reflect, because in order to get to that point where we could be on stage, talk about our failures, etc., it was a long journey, and we are talking about, can we change culture or not before? I don't have a definite answer, but at least we tried. So let's take a quick, step in memory lane. So let's backtrack. First thing, before I will backtrack, I need to apologize because I'm sure that I'm only invited here because Dario loves that. Usually in my presentation, I use Legos, to illustrate. It's much easier. I don't have to pay, IP rights for images. It's better than stock images. So I used to build it. This year, I didn't have time, and I thought, hey, actually, AI is supposed to help us with, the admin stuff, making things faster, etc. Well, I realized that first, it took me much more time to do it with AI to get the prompts I wanted than with Legos. But I tried, and again, I'm trying to evolve, and you see that again in the spirit of failure. So you will have my very poorly prompted AI images. But how did it start? So it really started a couple of years ago when I had a chat with our CMO at the time, and we were reflecting on the experiments we were running. Some I talked about here, like some of the projects we're running, like, hey, we do really cool stuff, but when we take, the internal pulse, when we ask our colleagues in the organization, innovation is always scoring low. Like we have many things that are doing great, but comparatively, our score about innovation, like, okay, there is a mismatch between what we feel we do and what our troops are telling us. So we need to do something about it. And here, that time, again, learning from many mistakes in the past, because in the past, we're like, hey, we need to do something about it. We go headless chicken, and we start doing activities. Yeah, let's talk about innovation. Let's ensure that we are going to have a hackathon. We have a hackathon, tick box. Everybody will be super energized, and we do. No, we say like, okay, let's pause, because it's time and time again, we have those issues and those scores. Let's try to understand. Let's get feedback from our organization. Let's let the people tell us why they feel that we cannot innovate. So the feedback was pretty interesting. It's like, yeah, we hear you when you talk about innovation, but it's not for me. So it's not for me because I don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. I have a super busy life. I heard some feedback where Lode was telling me yesterday, like, some companies are less easy to work with than others because of process, etc. So, which you can understand. So basically, it's always from the outside looking in about innovation. It's not for me. I don't know how to do it, where to start, etc. So like, that's actually a very good point. So can we work about it? Can we help? So we tried to devise a program to address those issues. We created, we thought, okay, let's create visibility so people understand what we do, and not the, hey, we do one hackathon and everyone is happy and we don't do. Let's create community of practice where we can have people coming and sharing, hey, this is what we did, this is how we did it, these are the questions that we addressed. So trying to build that, create that momentum. Again, going to the previous discussion, focusing on the how. So, really, how do we do it? Provide training and coaching on the processes. That was something that was super important. Also, not to hide the elephant, the SOP compliance elephant in the room. Like, no, we know that we work in a regulated industry. And it is regulated for good reasons. Like, we have a fiduciary duties to our patients, so we cannot be reckless. But going back to what my wife, who's a lawyer, is always telling me, there is the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. So let's go, what is the spirit of our process to the letters of our process? And what we found is that very often people go to the letter of the process as an excuse because we're not comfortable, etc. So let's be sure that for any project, we have people that are allies that can help us understand what is the spirit of our process, so we have the true north. What we are going to do is right. Now, how can we do it in the most efficient way, etc.? Create that training, etc. That's important. The last point that was also really crucial is break it in small pieces. Very often, we see that people you only see the end result of an innovation project. So this is big, this is long, you don't know where to start with. So this is overwhelming. Also, people have a very wrong mindset when going for approval, going to procurement, going to legal, going to ethics and compliance with like, hey, this is a final exam, so I need to have all the answers before I go to them because otherwise I will be punished. That doesn't work very well, because if you do that, you invest so much time up front and you are not an expert in that area that you are going actually to have an awkward discussion. Let's try to use those functions as partner. Let's have small, tiny bits of steps to go. Make it digestible. So we did all that. We were happy. We were sure that it would work. Well, actually, not that much. We saw that actually, we were just removing some layers, but it was still not super successful. Actually, one word, I was in Germany, working in Germany at the time, and I learned many words in German. One that I really love because it was hitting me in the face all the time is a word that is called Jein. It's half ja, half nein. And the best translation to Jein is, yeah, thanks, JP, that's a very nice idea, but you are freaking stupid. So that was it. So, like, okay, people were, it's almost like they were taught how to do it, but they were afraid to start. And I can relate, also linking back to the previous presentation, you have yet another Swiss resident that is not Swiss on stage here. So, being that, and especially having a mother from North Africa, you can imagine that snow is not our thing. But as an adult, peer pressure, like, I have to learn how to ski. Yes, people were telling me all the theory about skiing. The first time I went, I crashed miserably. I'm a tall guy. It was painful. I never tried again. That's a bit the same thing. You can tell people if you don't show how, this is a bit difficult. So we need to understand what is those drivers behind it. And really a big one, same thing as for me, like it's so difficult to learn a new sport, something dangerous as an adult, is really fear of failure. So like, yeah, you tell me how to do it, but if I have a mistake, if I don't do it correctly, my career will be over, and there will be consequences, etc. So after many cycles trying to understand the root cause, we got it. This is really, we are slow, we are not taking the right risks in the right way. It's because we are afraid of failing. So we're like, okay, that's a very difficult one. How are we going to address that? Well, same thing. We need at least to try. So what did we do? The first one, talking the talk. So we need to make, it's not only talking about innovation, about what's possible, but it's making failure very transparent. And that's something that was interesting. Again, going back in our culture, we have this culture about, community of practice. We share best practices. We go to those events, and that's a bit the feedback I got last year. Like, we see only things that are working well. This is cool. So, but this is creating an undue pressure. Like, hey, how can I achieve that? We never have, the failing projects that are on the front stage. So we agreed with the CMO. The CMO was giving us time. Our CMO used to have a quarterly town hall with the whole organization. This is a major event. You can imagine that hair time in that event is a precious commodity. Well, we said, okay, we want to have time in that event. Every quarter, we are going to share failures. So we talked about it. We had that time and time again. So also, again, not a flash in the pan. Repetition is important. Having different people, it's also very important. That's a feedback, a brutal feedback I got, is we need to have people, that they can relate to. Sometimes they're like, yeah, of course, you, i.e. me, yeah, you can fail. It's in your job description. And you are higher up enough not to have the consequences, which is actually wrong. It's a misconception. But that's how they were feeling it, that I could be allowed to fail. They couldn't. So really having people, and it really took time to get people having the courage to go in those meetings, talk about those failures, etc. So we had a couple of those events. That was cool. But then we said, hey, we want, to raise the antes. We want to do it more. And let's do, for our end of the year CMO event, we wanted to do like startups do, which is sometimes, they have those events when they spend one evening talking about their failures, etc. And it's a festive event. Everyone goes, we celebrate failure. So let's make it one big event. And for that event, we thought, okay, let's do it differently. Instead of us organizing it, which would be, again, big corporate telling us and the mantra, actually, we went to some people who actually organize those events for the startups to make it genuine, etc. Also to get out of our comfort zone. That was pretty interesting because the moment we started organizing that event, we actually had to taste our own medicine because we were not comfortable in the process. And they were like, yeah, but trust the process. The event will go well. And we're like, yeah, but this is still an event with, thousands of people in. This is for the CMO. And I was looking at the mirror and say, oh, I'm the hugest hypocrite because when I tell people, hey, it's okay, you can try, you will not have the consequence. And we were like, trust the process and do it. It was really difficult. So we tried to follow the process. We bit our tongue, etc. Until really the day before the event, we have the dry run. And it was a fiasco. It was like, we were like, oh, shoot, this is so bad. So our gut feeling was right, but we didn't listen to it, and we were going and said, okay, tomorrow we have that event, and this is it's not going to make it. This is really, really bad. So how do we do? That was really, really humbling. We just had a couple of hours, and going back to the point that Dario was mentioning, hey, when COVID hit, we didn't have to think about all our process, etc., on a completely different scale. But for us here, that was like, hey, we have 12 hours before the event. We are not going to waste 2 hours of thousands of our colleagues on something that's not valuable. What do we do? So do we do it anyway? And that will be something okayish? Yeah, no, that's not what we want. Are we going to cancel? Which is okay, it can happen. People, end of the year, they will be happy to get 2 hours back. Yes, but is it a teaching moment? And then we thought, okay, yes, we will cancel it, but we will not just cancel it or try to sugarcoat it. So we decided to, with the CMO and the colleagues in the organization team, we recorded during the night one video explaining the whole story about what we wanted to do, how we did, how we failed about it. We added a couple of our own epic fails. It's the end of the year, you have those things. So we ended recording some skits, making fun of all of us, even the CMO, etc. So trying to engage the team, etc. This was a video that, of course, you can imagine, we didn't have time to script. We didn't have an agency to write it, to record it, to review it as it was going to be published, etc. We didn't die. It worked pretty well, but actually this was something that was super well received by the organization as a teaching moment, saying okay, if even the CMO is okay to fail in that event, is acknowledging it, etc., that was really a good sign. So we could fail by trying to communicate about failure. That was one of the points. Talking the talk is good. Walking the walk is even more important. So we wanted to ensure that the people that actually fail are on an equal footing as the rest of the organization. So we have, and I think most organizations are the same, we have, yearly awards, etc., when we submit usually excellence in X, Y, Z, etc. We added excellence in failure. So this is now, it's an award that we have on a yearly basis. It's not an award for sloppiness, so that's also a way to reinforce the message. So it's not like, hey, I did something so stupid that I want to get the fail award. No, it's like, I tried something, I did the right thing, I followed the process. By follow the process, the methodology, like it was something that was addressing a goal. It was having the right objectives. We did everything that we wanted, but we took a risk, and it didn't pan out, and even better, we learned something from it. So that's really the mindset of we want. We want to ensure that people take those risks, learn from them, and start all over again. So we created this award. The first year was, again, not successful. That's the recurring theme here, because people were half believing us about it. So most of the submissions that we got for that award on the first year, they were either humble brag, like, oh, I wanted to organize that event, and I only had 2,000 participants. I expected 2,005. Oh, boo-hoo. Like, yeah, no, that's absolutely not the spirit. Or the other one, good for my ego, but again, defeating the purpose, is I had so many people nominating me for an award where I was the jury, so the easiest win ever. But again, not really the purpose of getting people having the courage to step in, but again, it's a question of continuity. Same as the example on the restaurant, that we will have growing pains, but we continue with this award, and hopefully year after year, people will be more confident in bringing those true failures forward. So one last point, because I think making it concrete can be also interesting, is we thought, can we bridge the gap? Can we make failure linked to something that our audience knows, related? Because very often, in digital or in type of commercial innovations, the threshold for failures are pretty low. So like, yeah, I don't want to take those risks. But in our industry is actually born on failure. I think the word was 6% of efficient medicines in the previous presentation. So one thing we did is we took the way that we represent a molecule pipeline, which is something we are all familiar with. We have preclinical, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and then in commercial, and usually you have so many molecules in preclinical, and the ones that make it to market are very few. This is normal. Do we see those as failure? We see it as the cost of doing business. So we took that exact same visual, so that people are totally used to see, accept it, and then we mapped our innovative initiatives at each stage, saying like, okay, preclinical, those are ideas. We want many ideas. Not all of them will go through. Then phase 1, those are the tips, like, okay, are those ideas meeting a priority business goal? Because you'd be surprised how many projects we get don't meet those business goals. Then, does it have a business case? Is it actually something that we can pilot? So that was actually a good way. It's something we're working on, but to ensure like, hey, I relate to that visual, I understand it, this is something that I see, and that people can relate to. So that was really for us a good way to bring those different streams together. Is it perfect? As I said, no. This is a constant work, and that's again the point about culture is difficult to change. It will take us years and years of walking the talk, doing that, being consistent about it, until we see those incremental changes. But still, we see that some changes are coming, some people are getting more confident, and if, time after time, we convince one colleague to take risk, to do something, it will be better for us, we will be more innovative, it will be better for our patients, because they are the true north that we are looking at, and we need to go. So it's an ongoing journey. I don't think that we have the answer, but it's been 4 or 5 years on it, so we have a way to go, but it's interesting. One last point, just to part with you with some reference, because we built on a lot of learning. couple of readings for those interested in the concept. One by Amy Hemmingson, The Right Kind of Wrong. This is really an interesting live about the intelligent kind of failures. We have great criteria, a lot of great visuals to talk about it. Another one that I really love, which is called the Digital Matrix. This is how to transform in traditional organization. So again, we're seeing how do we go from pilot to scale. They have really interesting concepts about how to build it. Those are a bit the concepts that we leveraged. This is part one. Tomorrow we have a panel where we'll exchange more examples about it. But in the meantime, thank you very much and keep on failing.